Welcome and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Irrigation Training Series. I'm your host, Richard Restuccia, and today we're going to be talking about the business of irrigation. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about the merger between two prominent irrigation manufacturers, Rivulis and Jain. Since the announcement of this merger, it's really caught the attention of everybody in the irrigation industry. It's certainly going to provide a lot of change and create a lot of opportunity for everybody in the industry as a result of this merger. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the details of the merger. We're going to be learning about the impacts of the merger and seeing some ways the industry might change as a result of that. Now, taking us through this webinar, my guest is John Vikupitz. Now, John is the president of Rivulis North America. And for anybody who's been associated with the irrigation industry in the last 20 plus years, they know this name, especially when it comes to drip irrigation. John has worked in all facets of the drip irrigation industry. We're really fortunate to have somebody with the knowledge of engineering, the industry, water conservation, and recycling leading this group. He will be leading the merged entity of Rivulis and Jain. We're excited to talk to him today. And John, welcome. Thanks for joining us and taking some time to talk about this merger and its impacts.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so John, one of the things that came up for me early on when I started to announce we were going to have this webinar, people started to say, well, gee, didn't that merger happen last summer, months ago? And maybe you could explain to everybody who's watching what happened there and what that was about.
Yeah, kind of a funny segue into this. I actually joined Rivulis in June, and I was asked to get on a call at the end of May before I'd officially started the role. And I remember it so well. It was a late call because it was with people in Israel, and they informed me that they had just completed an agreement to acquire the company and wanted me to be aware of it, or to merge with the company. And so literally a week before I joined, I found out about this event. And so it was an interesting surprise to me. And but to get right to the answer to your question, because the two companies are significant players in the same industry, there are certain regulatory approvals that have to be obtained before you can complete the deal. You can come to terms with the other party, you can agree to the structure of the arrangement, but then you have to deal with various governments. And in our case, I think it was 10 different countries that had to give an approval to allow the transaction to take place. And like most governments, things tended to move slow. A few were faster than others, but it was a long process to get the final approval. And we managed to do that in the month of February, I believe, and early in March, and we concluded the deal at the end of March.
Well, that's great to understand. And yeah, I can imagine what it would take to get that many approvals worldwide. Certainly, maybe moving slower, even with some of the travel challenges, pandemic, the things that we've been experiencing. So, John, so that's interesting. You came to Rivulis June of last year, end of May, that time scenario. What brought you here? What can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up here at Rivulis?
Well, yeah, I was recruited by the company. I think those conversations started in the late 2021 time period. Prior to that, I was with an ag tech startup for about 3 years, focusing on farm management and irrigation scheduling software. Prior to that, I was with one of Rivulis's competitors for a period of time. I think a total of two periods, but let's say 20 years, just to keep the math simple. I started in the industry while I was going to college. I actually installed irrigation systems, residential and large ag systems in Southern California, and then moved into water meters, and then into drip irrigation, and then into industrial valves. So I've spent my entire career in water. I understand it fairly well. So that's the short answer to your question, and I'm glad to be here and happy to be part of this exciting merger.
Yeah, and anybody who knows you, John, I happen to have known you for over 10 years. We were on the Irrigation Association Board of Directors together a while back. But anybody who knows you knows your commitment to both customers and employees and what a plus that is. So I know we're all excited about this. So John, tell us a little bit about the history of the two companies, Rivulis and Jain.
Yeah, I'll kind of advance here. I don't know if we have a slide on that specifically, but it's an interesting history going back to the 1960s. Back then, there was, I would say, a couple of cells of drip irrigation innovation. One here in Southern California with the T-Tape Company and the Roberts Irrigation Company, Spot, and a few other names that don't exist anymore. And then there was a cell of activity over in Israel where like California, water was a challenge and was needing to be rationed and used correctly and carefully. And so companies like Nan, Dan, Plastro, and others started developing this technology that we now take for granted. And so when John Deere decided to get into this business back in the mid-20 teens, they combined T-Tape, Roberts, and Plastro into an global irrigation company. And I don't know the exact date, but Jain decided to do the same and form the Nandan Jain Company, which incorporated some brands that are well known here in the States, Chapin, Ag Products, a few others. And then the two companies sort of went through this journey, and they added technology along the way. And Rivulis eventually bought the company from John Deere Water. I believe conversations even started with the Jain family about joining forces many years ago. And it finally culminated in a deal last year. So it's been a pretty long journey to get to where we are. But we now have some really great brands that have been around for a very long time here in the U.S. market and internationally.
And certainly that's one thing I've learned about the irrigation industry, John, is that time and experience matters. And the Rivulis name might be relatively new, but the companies that form the Rivulis Jain name now certainly date back many years, right? 50, 60 years. So there's a lot of irrigation experience that's where we are today.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So can you maybe tell us some reasons in your mind for the merger taking place?
Yeah, I think there's a few. I'll highlight that. I think we have a slide on this, our slide on reason. We have I think the Jain family and the management of Rivulis have a shared vision about providing high quality products to provide sustainable irrigation and related technology to farmers. They both have a vision to be a global presence. I think there's a purpose to serve the growers with simple to use, affordable technology. I think there's a recognized benefit behind the fact that we've got all the major components of an irrigation system, including the software and the technology to drive the system available. I don't think anybody in the world active today has tape, integral drip line, a range of sprinkler products we have, and accessories. So it's really provides a platform for significant growth in the future. And both companies, I think, had strong presences or distribution channels in certain parts of the globe. Now together, I think we've got really the entire globe very well covered. So a lot of efficiencies, a lot of synergies, operational expertise that we can now leverage, and it goes both ways. So I think it's really it's going to be an interesting thing to watch grow and prosper.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be exciting to be a part of too. That's for sure. And that's just not for employees like myself, but for our customers too. Now, what about the products and the services we offer? What's going to change with that, if anything?
Well, we've taken, I think, a very smart approach here. There's companies that do deals and they try to push everything together very quickly, and it creates some pain points for customers and for end users. And so our approach is to try and capture the best of both. The Jain organization did some things very well. Rivulis organization's got a lot of capabilities as well. So we're taking an approach of let's get to know each other. Let's try and understand what the customers want. Let's try and understand what the end users need. And over a period of time, merge the two units together, build a shared vision, build shared values, with the focus on making the farmer as efficient as possible, and if there is an intermediary or dealer involved, make them as successful as possible.
Yeah, and that's really a great message, right, to rally behind. So I know a lot of people worry about the employees, what happens to employees during mergers. This seems to come up a lot. What have you seen so far? What do you think about the future?
Well, I think that the opportunities and the volume of business that we foresee in the future create great opportunities for the employees. I think that's one of the main goals of the next 3 to 6 months, is trying to understand where the employees are today, where they want to be, and try and find the best use of their skills and talents. So we're definitely in a learning period, but I think the opportunities for the employees of both Jain and Rivulis are pretty much limitless.
Yeah, and John, I've known some of the employees at Rivulis for a while, right? I've been at other jobs with them at other companies, but I certainly didn't know them all, and I haven't met them all yet. But the ones I'm meeting, what I can feel is you can feel that level of experience, knowledge is rising, and that's really a positive thing to experience. And boy, I see it as a positive for our customers down the line as well.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So you mentioned company values and culture, and how the two companies fit well together with their cultures and value. Do you see any change in that? Are you looking at anything going forward that might change as a result?
Well, I'd say there's going to be change. I expect that it'll require a process for us to consult with our new team members. Rivulis had an established culture and a set of values, and the sort of change from country to country. But for the North American business, it was a certain way of doing things at Rivulis, and it would be a shame for us not to come into this with a mindset other than let's get together with the Jain and Jain team and figure out what we see as a joint collective vision. How do we best serve growers? How do we best serve dealers, and build a shared vision that everybody can buy into? So for sure, some change, but I don't see, based on the people I've met and the conversations I've had, anything that's real radical or dramatic that would negatively impact the employees or the clients or the dealers or the growers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. So just want to remind everybody, I do have the Q&A open and the chat. If you have some questions, you can type them in there, and I'll get them to John when appropriate. So John, one thing I've learned about you, every time we talk, almost, you bring up customers. How will this be for the customers? You have a real deep concern for customers and their experience. So how is this merger going to affect our customers' experience?
Well, I think I've learned by watching, within companies I've worked for and watching competitors in our space, that's sort of the place you have to start. You can't come in with a strong notion of how people need to conform to your way of doing business or your products. And we can have another conversation another time when there is more time. But I think one of the reasons that agricultural technology has been a challenge is you get people from the tech space, the consumer product space, that trying to force an idea down a client's throat. And so my approach is, let's listen to the farmers, listen to the dealers, understand what they need from us, and build the company around that. Don't try and tell the customers how to do business with us. So, and I think that's really kind of common sense, but it's surprising a lot of companies forget about that. So my job, as I see it, is to make sure that I send a strong or set a strong tone with the organization that the outside world is more important than what we do inside. Let's not get wrapped up in our own bureaucracy. And the same with the corporate parent. I mean, my key role is to be a strong advocate for the customer at the headquarters level.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? The customer is concerned about the customer and what they're going to experience, and sometimes people lose sight of that. But this is what you definitely reinforce with all of us: is keep that customer experience first. So, speaking of that, what about existing contracts or agreements? Are customers going to have to renegotiate things here? What's going to happen?
Well, our commitment is to keep the customer's life simple. So everything is as is right now. We obviously have clients that have done business with both Jain in the United States and in Mexico, and same on the Rivulis side. So we have to find some way to bring the two elements together into one unified agreement, one unified program or experience. So we're working on that right now. Because of this regulatory issue that I mentioned earlier, we actually couldn't talk to each other about client agreements or commercial terms and conditions. And so we're just opening that book up right now, if you will, and trying to figure out what exists on the Jain side, and trying to find the most acceptable way for us to go to the market at some point in the future and say, okay, here's the unified terms and conditions, the way we'd like to do business with you, and negotiating any kind of individual arrangements that we need to do.
Yeah, that's a great point, John. Sometimes I have to remind myself that this is actually business day 8 of the merger. It
Right.
feels like a long time because the announcement, but like you said, we couldn't share customer information, sales numbers, anything until 8 days ago. So that's a real good point. Well, we've got a question coming in from one of the viewers, and they're asking about how the merger affects somebody that was a Jain dealer that was not a Rivulis dealer. Do we have plans for that yet, or is that something we're still working on?
Yeah, we're still working on that. We want to make sure we do this in a thoughtful way, and we do it, as I said earlier, in a way that's going to provide as negative or as positive an experience for the customer as possible. And so we don't want to ramrod any plain vanilla package down anybody's throat here. So as I said, we're still trying to understand who had whatever terms and conditions from Jain, and how we make that work with Rivulis system. I would say that at this time, what we're really focused on is trying to get the computer systems harmonized. Jain US and Jain and Rivulis are all separate systems. And so we actually received an email yesterday from a customer wanting to unify the accounts, and we actually can't do that just yet because we haven't actually been trained, the Jain employees, on the Rivulis system. So we're in I would say a couple month period of discovery. And again, we want to do this in a thoughtful, meaningful way so we don't disrupt the client's expectations and create a lot of pain at their end. And I guess I would just also offer, we're still, I'm spending a lot of time trying to talk to clients, understand what they want, understand what their concerns are, because that's not super clear. We couldn't talk to Jain clients legally until just last week. And so we're still working on that.
Yeah, so there's a lot to this, right? And it's not just happening here in North America, 36 countries we're going to be involved with now. And so there's a lot of work to do. What about your timeline for this merger integration process? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's an official 100-day plan. I would tell you, if anybody has ever interacted with a consulting firm, a 100-day plan is sort of a boilerplate document that seems like they all want to use. Practically speaking, we'll make some changes after 30 days. We'll make some changes after 60 days, after 90 days, as soon as we feel like we've got enough information to make a smart decision. And then I would say that so 30 days from now, it's going to put us into June. At least some parts of the country, irrigation is really not too much of a thing at that point in time. And then we'll probably assess marketing programs and sales force structure. We do have some opportunities to improve coverage in my view. So it's going to be an evolving process that'll take us through this season, really. And again, with the idea that we don't do this in an unthoughtful, hasty manner and create a lot of pain at the end of the pipeline. That's really what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And certainly, 100 days will go by in a blink of an eye right now, with things that are going on. And as you mentioned, we're starting the season as well. One of our other viewers, John, is wanting to know if they'll be able to purchase both products from both companies.
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question completely. The two companies will merge together. So ultimately, there'll be one entity that you can buy products from. And, we're still trying to understand the distribution coverage piece. But I would say in general, if you're a distributor, and the reality is there are a lot of companies that have already been buying products from both companies. So the intent is for you to have an easy buying experience and by buying from one entity. There may be some considerations where we have some sort of restrictive distribution, but I can't even answer that question without understanding the market a little bit better.
Yeah, so I think that's right. I think the right answer, right, is that you're not going to buy both products from both companies. You're going to buy both products from one company, and that'll take, I think, a little getting used to, but it'll happen over the next few months, I'm sure. So, John, how about you're leading this merger, you're leading the combined companies forward in North America. Can you tell us a little bit about your goals and where you'd like to see this company be in the next year or two?
Well, I think in the next year, smooth integration is probably job one, and that to me the overriding theme is making sure that the customer experience is good, and we have happy people serving those customers. So that's really what I'm going to spend all of my time on, or most of my time on. In the longer term, I think there's a lot of opportunities to grow the business. There are markets where Rivulis may not have been strong, or Jain might have not have been strong, or both, that I know we can provide good value to. And so geographical expansion is probably step number two. Optimizing the product line so that we don't have needless duplication, and we achieve some synergies and efficiency is important as well. So those are kind of the two main themes I guess I would share at this point in time. And I think the clients that I hope to visit in the next 3 to 6 months, I would just say that your input is super important, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the customers want, because ultimately we won't be successful if we don't make them happy.
Yeah, that's a healthy plate of things to accomplish over the next few years, but very exciting, very good for, like I said, not just customers, not just employees, but the irrigation industry as a whole. This is going to raise the level all over. So really, this is a significant development in the industry, bringing these two companies together. You have any last thoughts or comments you want to make to the people watching today?
Well, I just express this. I know a lot of folks in the industry. I'll be reaching out to them to get their advice. I really think that something like this can be successful only if you, I keep saying this term customer, but if you getting the advice and feedback is something I'd look forward to. And I would encourage people that don't know me to reach out to your sales rep if you have any questions. If you have any ideas, really, I think the way that a progressive company can advance is to take advice. So I guess I would just leave that as the final thought for me.
Boy, and what a great final thought that is. Sometimes I need to take that advice myself. And so I like that. So John, thanks so much for coming on and being our guest today to talk about this important industry merger. I certainly appreciate it. I know our viewers do as well. I want to remind everybody watching today that you can go to the jainsusa.com/trainings site and see all 300 plus of our trainings for irrigation, conservation, and sustainability that we have there. And also wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, right? We extract all the audio out of these webinars so that you can, and I see it happening often, people are working and listening and educating themselves on irrigation, proper water management, and sustainability. It's really exciting to see and be a part of the change that's happening right now. So again, John, thank you. Really appreciate your time today. And thanks to everybody out there. We'll see you next week.
Have a great day.